Hi, and welcome to RecoverED, a podcast from the Magdalen House, a recovery community for alcoholic women. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Dallas, Texas, and known affectionately by many as Maggies. The RecoverED podcast is made to educate the community on alcoholism, the Magdalen House, our programs, and resources for the community. In each episode, you will get to know the disease of alcoholism a little better, and soon you'll know how you can shatter the stigma around alcoholism in your community. With me, your host, Diana Miller, a recovered alcoholic and outreach manager here at the Magdalen House. We are so glad you're here. Thanks for listening. Guest today is Alejandra Saldana, Health and Wellness Manager at Jubilee Park and Community Center. Welcome, Alejandra. So good to have you.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, we're so excited to highlight our partnership with Jubilee Park and hear about all the great things you're doing with your mental health initiative. So, Alejandra, can you tell us about Jubilee Park and Community Center's mission and its new mental health initiative?
Yeah, so Jubilee, we are a place-based organization, and really we're focused on being a catalyst for change in our 62 block neighborhood. So we offer programs to essentially hit every generation of life through partnerships. We offer Head Start programming on our campus, after school, adult education, so ESL, computer literacy, things like that. And then, of course, our senior citizen program. So that's pretty vibrant. We have a lot of seniors in our neighborhood. And then just different one-off programs there too, so like home repair stuff. And my baby, which is health and wellness, and our venture into the community clinic on our campus.
That is so wonderful. I love Jubilee Park. It offers something for everybody. So when did the clinic offer and what services specifically are you offering at the clinic?
Yeah, so the clinic, we've been open and running for a few months now. We opened in August, so it's very, very new. We are partnering with Parkland and Jewish Family Services, and the idea is to bring holistic care in one location in our neighborhood. So through Parkland, primary care and dentistry, Jubilee, and of course what I do is disease management and disease prevention. So programs like cooking classes, blood pressure check, monitoring, things like that. And with Jewish Family Service, our mental health component. So understanding that there is a mental health component to being healthy as a whole person. So that's through Jewish Family Service. We've actually been partnering with them for about 5 years now, and it's been an amazing partnership. It started a little bit with a struggle because we primarily serve Hispanic and African American community members. So there is stigma around mental health, right? Mm-hmm. So it did start a little bit with a struggle, but we have since then grown so much. We have a space for them now. We fortunately and unfortunately have a wait list now for folks, so it's great that people are using the services, but it's just the capacity of being able to serve everyone.
I am so glad that you mentioned that there is such a stigma around getting help, asking for help when it comes to our mental health, and specifically in the communities that you mentioned. We see the same when it comes to alcoholism, identifying as an alcoholic, getting help for one's alcoholism. So the more commonly used medical term for alcoholism is alcohol use disorder, which is actually defined in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders as a chronic relapsing brain disease characterized by compulsive alcohol use, loss of control over alcohol intake, and a negative emotional state when not using. So as such, alcoholism should definitely be discussed when we're talking about mental health. So how does your initiative address alcoholism, and how do you see the partnership with the Magdalen House as helping your community members overall?
Yeah, so I think really the first step is promoting mental health as really its own component of health. Unfortunately, in our community and a lot of communities like Jubilee, it's always like, well, just go to church, or you can pray things away, or even the thought of alcoholism being a disorder, a mental health disorder, that perception needs to change, because a lot of people think it's like, well, if you really wanted to stop, you can stop. Or like in my case, where I have a father that struggles with alcoholism, is no, I'm a man, I can just pull up my pants and I'll be fine. Like I can get, not this habit is what they call it, but it's understanding that no, this is really hard, and regardless of the substance, in this case we're talking about alcoholism, it is really a mental health disorder. And understanding that when you have community members or people in your neighborhood and your family that struggle with this, it's like, hey, this is really hard to break, and we shouldn't judge people that are struggling with it. But I think that's the biggest piece. And then in terms of partnership, I mean, Magdalen House, y'all do amazing stuff.
Thank you.
And so I'm very much a fan. And really just relying on experts in the field. So Jubilee, we don't have to be the experts and do all be all. I don't think that's ever going to work anywhere. So bringing in partners and realizing that we can do more change and more effective change when we all move together as a unit. I think that's the biggest piece. So partnering with folks like you guys that are the experts in this stuff, bringing them into our community, or having like a soft handoff. So we're almost to where we're bringing folks to your door. It's like, hey, we vetted this organization, they're trusted, they will take care of you. Because I know sometimes it's really hard to take that first step when you're still a little worried, like, oh, well, do they really have my best interest in mind? So really just being that gatekeeper for our neighborhood and telling people like, hey, this is a safe space, this is an effective program, and bringing in those trusted partners.
Absolutely. You are completely speaking my language. So like you said, it starts with education, first and foremost. Education around mental health, all of the components, and letting people know that there is help, and most importantly, that it is okay to ask for help. And you just put that beautifully. And secondly, like you said, we each have our own mission, and relying on our partners to complement the services that we already offer. And Jubilee Park is one of my favorite partners, disclaimer. And we have you listed on our resource directory, and our clients know that you offer a wealth of services. And like we said in the beginning, there is something for everybody.
Well, thank you.
So Alejandra, what has been the community's response to the mental health initiative? What are you finding? I know you talked about some of the challenges. What have been some of the successes?
Yeah, so I will say just the openness of being really accepting services. So a lot of families now not only looking for the services for their kids, because that kind of has been our way in almost. It's like everybody wants the best for their kids, right? So working through the kids to expand to the family, like, okay, my child might be having some issues here and there, and so they bring their child to receive mental health services. And then our folks, our partners, being smart enough to essentially probe to what's going on. It's like, okay, well, how are you dealing with this, mom or dad or grandma? Because we have a lot of grandparents raising their grandchildren, and really navigating that. So having people feeling comfortable with that has been so amazing to see, to the point where now we can bring in and have like group therapy sessions with our after school kids or during our summer camp, and having parents feeling very, very comfortable of like, oh, I know Dr. Gustavo, like he can definitely talk to my child, like this is great. And as opposed to the beginning, like there was some hesitancy, but now it's like all the parents feel very comfortable signing off on like, yeah, my child can participate in this in their class. And I think that's such a huge success, that unfortunately with the parents, sometimes we have to work retrospectively,
Right.
and trying to heal some of those traumas. But with the kiddos, we're teaching them the tools to use when things happen, or really working those things so that essentially they're growing up healthier adults, in the mental health sense.
And do people need to pay for these services? Is there a cost associated?
Yeah, so through the group programs with the after school kids, definitely not. JFS, or Jewish Family Service, has things in place to where they can cover co-pays or work with families that do not have insurance, but they are still have a for-profit component. So they'll try to bill insurance when they can, but obviously we try to find ways to help our families. So we do have a financial assistance program that folks can tap into. So we don't want money to be a factor. So we try to work with families as much as we can in that sense.
What additional services are you planning on offering as part of the mental health initiative? What are some projects that you are working on?
Yeah, so obviously we want to bring in Magdalen House as much as we can, and really expose our neighbors to the services that you have. And it might not be today or tomorrow in terms of breaking that stigma around it, because a lot of folks have perceptions about women and alcoholism. But opening that door and getting people know, I mean, it's a slow change for our community, but that's a big one. And we have had a lot of community members ask about grief support. So we are in search of a partner that is an expert in grief support. So come find us if you have anyone. But that is one that we're looking for. It's been an ask, especially around the holidays, is when the ask was increased. But yeah, grief support is something we're looking at, embedding some partners in those resources as well.
And again, that's why we're here, is looking for those partners that can complement our programming and our services, and just working together as opposed to being in competition, because we all provide something different. We're the experts in our field. And I do want to go back to something that you said, that is a challenge for us as well, is getting more Spanish speaking women to seek help for their alcoholism, or even just learn more about alcoholism. I feel like there is, this understanding that if you're a male in the Hispanic community, it's okay to be an alcoholic. But if you are a woman, it's very much frowned upon. Again, the word stigma comes to mind. I would be remiss if I didn't mention and promote our recovery meeting that we offer in Spanish every Thursday at 1:15, and that is being offered virtually, and any woman in the community can attend. I believe that you had said that the demographics of Jubilee Park, you have about 80% of the community members are Spanish speaking.
Yeah, so roughly, that's a rough number, but yes, it's majority Hispanic.
It's majority Hispanic. So that's why it's so important for us to make sure that we are being inclusive, and that we are offering this meeting to any of the women in your community that may need it. Like I said, it's in Spanish, it's virtual, so they can log in from anywhere. And do you think that this is something that women would be interested in attending?
Yeah, for sure. I think something that's so kind of almost open door policy type of thing is important. At least for folks that may start feeling like maybe this is not a healthy level of drinkable. No drinking is healthy for the body technically, but maybe something that they've noticed that they're not happy with doing. I think that's an amazing thing that y'all are doing, and definitely something that people can benefit from.
Great. I also wanted to congratulate you on your master's in public health.
Thanks.
So that's such a perfect fit for your position.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I am blessed enough to have found my purpose, I'll say, in terms of helping my community live longer. I think that's why I'm here.
And you grew up in the Jubilee Park neighborhood, is that correct?
I did. So when people ask me, how long have you been at Jubilee? I'm always like, well, as an adult, I've been there a few years now, but I'm from the neighborhood, and I think it just means so much to be able to serve my neighbors, people that I grew up with, people I've known my whole life that saw me grow up. I think it's such a blessing, and every day I'm humbled by the position I'm in order to help.
Oh, congratulations again. And so that is something that we are working on as well. And again, we couldn't do that without our partners, and having more education presentations to the community, offering that in English and Spanish, and having recovered alcoholic women who can speak Spanish and say, hey, this is a disease. It's not, like you said earlier, it's not about willpower.
Yeah.
This is a disease of the body and a disease of the mind. And guess what? I'm an alcoholic too. and there is a solution, and you can recover.
Yeah, yeah, and even accepting the fact that maybe you have a problem with alcohol. Well, I don't like to use the word problem. Maybe a difficulty with a substance. Um, but even accepting that, and honestly, I think it's interesting because I feel like as generations start changing, it's interesting to see how it's more accepted for women to drink socially, as opposed to when, my mom's generation, where it's like, no, that's not ladylike, or whatever the case may be, right? So it's almost interesting, and I'm thinking about my peers, and I think the only thing in Dallas to do is to go out and drink for
Right.
folks my age, right? So it's interesting to see how that'll change a little bit, and it's like, hey, it's not just, oh, this is something I do socially, but is there more there? And are you willing to visit that maybe there's something that you're not as content with, or you're using this to supplement something else that you're feeling? And really just that, I'm just speaking out loud because I'm interested to see how that'll change in the years to come in terms of women drinking and having difficulties with the substance.
Absolutely. And we are seeing that the statistics show that there are more and more women struggling with alcoholism, especially during and after COVID.
Wow. Yeah. That'll make sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what Jubilee does in terms of being holistic and serving the whole family. While our primary focus is recovery for the alcoholic women, we are very proud to offer a family support group for both men and women. Do you see this as being something that your community members could take advantage of?
Yeah, for sure. I'm thinking almost some of our teens. A lot of our I mentioned grandparents raising grandchildren. There's reason to that. And unfortunately, some of our kiddos are facing really difficult situations where parents are not as involved, or mom is not as involved for X reason. So even for our teens and some of those grandparents raising those kiddos, I think that'll be a big deal, because we do have a community where folks are just absent and are struggling with this mental health disease. So yeah, for sure.
And we do have grandparents in our group. We have people of all ages.
Yes, and so exactly, and that's why I love what you all do, because y'all are thinking of everything that needs to be tapped into within a family to help somebody be their best self.
Thank you. And we're very close to each other.
Yeah.
We're physically close to each other.
Yes, it took me like 3 minutes.
Yes.
Maybe to come over here. Yeah.
Yes. Is there anything else that you would like to share about not just a mental health initiative, but Jubilee Park in general? And for somebody who is listening that would like to get involved, either accessing services or as a volunteer perhaps, how can they get involved?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have stuff going on pretty much all day. I've been running around all day. But we have monthly calendars that go out every third Thursday of the month before. So today we're releasing March. And obviously anyone can call us at any time. Our number is 214-887-1364. I've said it a billion times, so I remember. Or our website, jubileecenter.org. Really, if you wanted to stop by, we're down the street. Our doors are always open. My office door is always open. I'm happy to guide anyone into whatever that interests them in terms of Jubilee, and obviously being a resource for Magdalen House as well.
So again, Alejandra, thank you so much for joining me and for taking the time to talk about Jubilee Park. Your congratulations on your new mental health initiative, and thank you so much for partnering with us in ensuring that we can serve as many community members, whether they're struggling with mental health, alcoholism, or have a family member that is struggling with alcoholism.
Yes, for sure. I mean, the honor is mine. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
This has been RecoverED, hosted by Diana Miller and brought to you by the Magdalen House. I am Laurie Evans, host of our Hope for the Family podcast series. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please tune in every Wednesday for a new release from one of our 4 series. To learn more about the Magdalen House and the services that we offer, Visit magdalenhouse.org or follow us on any of your favorite social media channels.